In this video, I'm going to give a review on What's up, fishing fam? Welcome back to the channel. Yep, today we're going to take a look at rods from the G Loomis line, available to American Legacy Fishing, a shop here in southern Indiana that I've been partnered with for the last couple of years. I've been a fan of American Legacy Fishing and Outdoors since I first walked in the door a couple of years ago. And they've got everything a bass fisherman could want. Shimano, G Loomis, Daiwa, Dobbins, all the goodies that you could ever look for, and it's always on sale. They have a fantastic trade-in program, which leads to an even more awesome used program where you can save a lot of money on gear that it just doesn't even look like it's been fished with. Ever since I bought my first Shimano Stradic CI4 spinning reel and the thing didn't even look like it ever had been on a spinning rod, I have been a huge fan. That being said, earlier this year I actually qualified and went to the Kayak Bass Fishing National Championship that took place this year on Kentucky Lake. And I put in a call to Graham and said, hey dude, look, I'm getting ready to go fish this national championship. I want to showcase some of your higher end rods and reels. These are the techniques I'm going to take out with me on the kayak. 9 different rods. Can you set me up for all these different techniques and see how all these rods and reels perform? And he sure did. So I've got 5 combos that are G Loomis rods and 4 combos that are all Shimano rod combos. Everybody who's followed the channel for a long time know I'm a mixed bag. I'm kind of the middle of the road kind of guy. But this time I wanted to play with a lot of the higher end stuff, so I have something kind of to compare everything to. So that's what we did. I like throwing lighter jigs, your quarter, 3/8 ounce, or Texas rig for throwing creature baits and 7 and 10 inch worms. Those bottom contact kind of things like football heads. So something that was really sensitive that I could feel those light bites there along the bottom. And then I needed a heavier jig rod if I needed to punch or throw heavier jigs in deeper water, or throw a bigger swim bait, or even a swim jig. So let's take a look at the 5 different rods that I got from American Legacy Fishing and kind of go over what reel I paired each one of them up with and how they did. Alright, so let's take a look at the first rod that I got in, which was the G Loomis NRX Plus 873C Carolina rig rod. Gramps, you didn't ask nobody for no Carolina rig rod. You said a finesse rod or a jig rod. Yeah, I know. Turns out it's one of those kind of the insider, if you're a aficionado, somebody who really knows the NRX Plus rods, then you wouldn't know that this is like the sleeper finesse jig football head kind of bottom contact kind of rod that G Loomis makes. It's a 7'3" fast, medium heavy action rod. They label it as a Carolina rig rod, but pretty much anybody in the know, and of course our crew at American Legacy Fishing, know what these rods are really for. And somebody like me who's not fished with G Loomis before, my brother has, but this is my first venture into it. Man, you wouldn't know, but this rod is phenomenal. G Loomis is a name that all bass fishermen have heard. It's the up there in high-end fishing gear. If you're looking for a rod that's got an American-made blank using the finest components, the NRX Plus is the one for you. G Loomis has been around for over 40 years. My brother, who used to guide at Lake Fork, had, I don't know, 13 or 14 different G Loomis rods and still has most of those rods, and he still fishes with the same G Loomis rods he bought over 23 years ago. He actually has one that he's considering retiring because he broke the guide off of it, but I told him that our friend Graham at American Legacy Fishing should be able to fix it for him, so he's actually reconsidering hanging that one on the wall and getting it fixed. But that's how good and how long these rods are really good for. They're just incredible. Now I'll be honest, before I get into the rest of this review, I was just going to review these and send them all back, but there might be an exception or two that comes out of this batch. I think Mr. Middle of the Road is going to have to keep a couple of them, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the video. Let's talk a little bit about what makes this rod the best there is, and I'm starting with the best of the 5 that I have for what I consider the NRX Plus. So we got 4 different models, 5 different rods. This Carolina rig rod is phenomenal in the hand. It's light, it's strong, and let me tell you why I say it's strong. The biggest bass I caught this year was 5 pounds, and it was an amazing battle. I was throwing that Magnum Ned on a summer day. I was out in the boat, and this fish just walloped that bait, and everything was going fine until I tried to get him back to the boat. And the minute I reached down to dip my net in the water and get this bass, he decided he wanted to be somewhere else. He was a skinny 5-pounder. So let's start with the bottom. You know, it's got nice cork. I don't get into all the, is it Portuguese or this and that. I'm just not that guy. This is, like I said, my first real experience, you know, fishing with higher end rods and reels. But I like the split grip on it. It's got the Shimano CI4 Plus reel seat. CI4 Plus is a carbon fiber blend. It's a material they use to make these reel seats. It makes it very strong. Another thing I like about this style of rod is how the cork comes all the way up to the reel seat and doesn't leave the screws exposed, because I like sitting my finger a lot of the times right in front of the reel, because a lot of times I'll run that line over my finger. So I like how this is actually smooth. Moving on up to the blank. Now we're going to talk about some of the construction things that makes and sets this rod apart. Shimano and G Loomis have been part of each other for quite some time now. When Gary Loomis sold Loomis to Shimano, and so you'll find a lot of different technologies from Shimano in the NRX Plus. But one of the technologies that Shimano uses is called Spiral X. Now what Spiral X means is they actually weave their material up the rod blank in an X pattern. What that does is it makes the rod lighter and stronger, so that when you're really flexing that rod, it won't oval or bend until it's, you know, in an area where it's actually supposed to. But if you can keep that rod round like this, it stays stronger versus ovaling, which could actually, you know, take away some of the strength from the rod. Now these rods also have the Loomis multi-taper up the blank, which imparts the action on it, but I'm going to talk about that when we talk about the bladed jig rod. Coming up the rod, it's got top of the line Fuji SIC guides on it until you get up past this third one. Then it's got these little recoil guides on it, which if you've ever seen anybody on a bass boat when they're horsing a fish and they've got, you know, like 10 rods on one side of the boat and 10 rods on the other, you can actually step on the guides of those and break them. But if you can see those little guides right there, if you step on them, they'll bounce right back into place until you get all the way back up to the front, and that's where you have another SIC guide made. It's a tip made by Fuji. Those are actually titanium. The guides in this are really one of those things that set this rod apart from, say, a Poison Adrena. This actually has some of the top of the line Fuji titanium guides on them. Now what does that mean to me and you? I don't know. I mean, guides are guides. I'm happy if I step on one of these, it won't break off. I don't know the difference because I've just not dealt with high-end stuff like this to know that a titanium guide is going to be any different than, say, the guides they use in some of their lower lines that are still very, very high quality. But when it comes down to it, this rod is strong, and I mean feather light. And we paired it up with one of Shimano's most popular, the Metanium. Now I really enjoyed this reel, but much like the Bantam, I don't understand what it is that Shimano does where this little piece right here next to the thumb bar, I don't know why this isn't smoothed off just a hair better. This one's actually better than the new Bantam, but I swear every time I cast these, I get a little blister from this little piece right here. It's not as noticeable on the Metanium as it is the new Bantam, but I just don't understand why it is that way. But I really, this is one of the smoothest casting reels I've ever thrown, and this combo together was phenomenal. And I had a lot of success with this combo this year. Not only did I catch this 5-pounder, but when I was fishing a tournament to qualify to go to the national championship, I was actually fishing on a body of water near me in a tournament. It's not known for big bass, but for me, the biggest bass I ever caught out of this place were 15-inch bass. And the day that I was throwing that Magnum Ned, I actually managed to catch two 17-inch, so 2 PBs off of that leg. mistake with the Magnum Ned on this combo. Fishing a deeper brush pile, something I'm trying to learn to do and stop being a bank beater and get out on, you know, a little further out in the water in the kayak and the boats. And this combo was phenomenal. I felt the subtlest of bites, and I put both of those fish in the boat and had probably one of the best tournament days I've ever had. Now, the line I put on this combo was Sunline's 16-pound shooter fluorocarbon that was also recommended to me from American Legacy Fishing. It's like while I was trying out some new things, I decided to try out Sunline for the first time because I've always been a Seagar and Vizix fan and love it, love it, love it. But I wanted to try out something different while I had a new combo in hand. This rod, absolutely phenomenal. When I talk about all the specs and everything, stuff that I don't really know about, let me tell you what I do know. I know when I feel a little finesse jig crawling across the bottom along the rocks, and it feels like in my mind I can see everything that's under the water, that really goes to show how sensitive this combo really is. I really enjoyed this combo this year. It was amazing. Next up are heavier jigs. We had the NRX Plus 854C jig worm rod. Super light, just a heavy power. This one is a 7-1 fast heavy action rod, and it was amazing. Rated for 5/16 up to 3/4 ounce jigs, 14 to 20 pound line. This thing, again, feather light, amazing. And I keep saying it, but man, with these NRX Plus rods, you can feel everything on the bottom. The first time I threw this, I had a bass hit the jig before it hit the bottom, and it almost scared me to death. The impact in my hand was so sensitive. It kind of shocked me how hard this bass hit it, and I got it in, and it was just, it threw me for a loop. I mean, I really didn't know how to act, but then I was like, oh, okay, now I understand why people fish these. On this rod, I had a Shimano Curado MGL 150 that I picked up this year. Really, these for me, if I'm going to build a fleet of reels to fish bass tournaments with, these Curado MGL 150s are going to be the staple. I mean, I like that Metanium. I love these Curado 150 MGLs. This is probably the most versatile baitcaster I've ever owned. There will be more in the kayak come next season. And the line that I was throwing on that jig worm rod, the Sunline FC Sniper in 16 pound. I've got a lot of tough decisions to make before springtime rolls back around. I keep telling myself I can't bring myself to keep such high-end gear. But after fishing it, I mean, after all, I did upgrade my kayak to the Cadillac. I do know this. I'm going to have a set of rod and reels for fun fishing, bank fishing, stuff that I can really beat up. And I am going to have a collection of somewhat higher end technique specific for those kayak tournaments that I fish. And they'll really only come out on tournament days versus the days I'm out playing around. So which ones am I going to keep and which ones am I going to send back? I won't know, honestly, until I put them in the rod tube and ship them back to Gramps and tell them to send me the bill for the rest. We'll just have to see. I really have enjoyed the awesome sensitivity, quality craftsmanship, and hey, rods that are made in America. It's hard to say that with a lot of brands these days. Even the higher end Shimano stuff I'm playing with, still made in China. But you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. Stay tuned for more rod and reel reviews, talking about some tackle, stuff we had success with, and some that we had failures with in 2022 as we get ready for the 2023 bass fishing season. Fishin' fam, thanks for stopping by. If you're brand new here, just looking for tips, tricks, reviews, and how-tos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and bang that little bell icon so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Until next time, get outside when you can and make some memories. One cast at a time.